the mighty Omen. I know who I am, know my identity. I born, proud descendant of she. Magical country, I still see it vividly. She's full of charm, touched by a magic wand. I spit out from she mouth, that's why I am so proud. Come see the connection, little string buried in this land. I am who I am, a Dominican. When they ask me who I am, point to a direction, straight from the air, I am Dominican. When they ask me who I am, I tell them where I'm from. In every way, I am Dominican. Dominica lives in me. Looking at me is what you see. Who I am, what I am, is Dominican. Did I? Na na na. Give me. I know who I am. She's part of me. From where you stand, see a reflection of she. Tall is a body, can't you see it in me? She's a natural beauty, whitey kubuli. She's one of a kind, lasting impression on your mind. Come look in me eyes, see my pride in the nature. I am what I am, a Dominican. When they ask me who I am, point to a direction, straight from the air, I am Dominican. When they ask me who I am, I tell them where I'm from. In every way, I am Dominican. Dominica lives in me. Looking at me is what you see. Who I am, what I am, is Dominican. Did I? Na na na. Give me. I know who I am, it was destiny. I'm a DA man, a spitting image of she. Strong is a body, see a strength in me. Spirit of resiliency, got it from she. Like a river that flow, through all obstacles I go. Come look in my mirror, you see me, you see her. I am where I'm from. Dominica. When they ask me who I am, point to a direction, straight from the air, I am Dominican. When they ask me who I am, I tell them where I'm from. In every way, I am Dominican. Dominica lives in me. Looking at me is what you see. Who I am, what I am, is Dominican. Did I? Na na na. Give me.
Good evening. I am Cleville Mills. Welcome to True Politics, a unique radio program that gives you a better understanding of the Dominican politics, the Dominican politician, and their political perspective. True Politics' main aim and objective is to dismantle and expose fake news by informing the public of the tactics and techniques of disinformation services and their agents. The program also gives you, the listening audience, an opportunity to exchange your ideas, as well as to dialogue with the host and guest in an effort to create a more harmonious relationship among us all. We are broadcasting from the studios of Kyrie FM in Roseau on the frequencies of 93.1, 88.7, and 107.9. We are also streaming live on kyriefm.com, Facebook Live also on Kyrie FM page. We also been streamed on TuneIn Live. And if you have cable television in Dominica, we on Flow channels 593 and 594. And those of you who have DigiPlay, you can hear us on channel 54. Those of you who intend to call us and join the program, you can also call us on 448-7334. Those of you in the diaspora, you can join us on 305-906-6186. On WhatsApp, you can get us on 613-1307 or 245-2929. We are covering the world on True Politics. Welcome once again. This is a new program for another week, and we are going to have some very interesting program with you. Ellison is already in studio with me. Hopefully, Donnie should be calling us live, online, in a short while. We have some very important legal information. We hope that Senior Counsel may be joining us at 7 p.m. As well as your calls, questions, and comments. We're going to have a very good program this evening. I also want to say good evening to all those of you who have been meeting every day, those of you who are not on Facebook, but I meet many of you who are following us on our frequencies and maybe on the cable television channels. I really love interacting with those of you who every day are on Facebook Live, joining us and really keeping us live and interactive. I can already see Paul Azil and Renee Walters. They are already with us. Astrid Pinard, and the list goes on at this early stage of this program. So welcome everyone. Stay tuned. And Ellison, your introduction.
Good afternoon, or good evening rather, whether you're in Dominica, whether you're in Guadeloupe, Martinique, or St. Martin, St. Croix, or Puerto Rico, America, or London, or UK. I say, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to have you this evening. We're going to really dismantle and have some fun together with the United Workers' Party, on the United Workers' Party, because now they are the laughing stock of Dominica and the greater region. You know, a lot of people following that thing with the United Workers' Party, that case they had in the court, that was something that people was looking forward to the result for, because if that had gone anywhere, it means that it could have a domino effect in Antigua, it could have a domino effect in St. Kitts, St. Lucia, because every government, every political party does it. So just imagine if it had gone through. That's why so many people were listening and watching, and that make news everywhere in the Caribbean. Good afternoon. I look forward to have a good sitting.
Yes, we will talk about that in some details. This evening we are really mostly going to discuss, that abuse of our system, and it will every time we have an issue where it involves the United Workers' Party, there's always the element of fake news, disinformation, and brainwashing techniques. So we'll expose them in that light. This evening, I have not seen Donnie with us yet. But before we go into a discussion, for the past 2 weeks, we were giving some information on MMC, the amount of things that they have been doing in Dominica, and the positivity of that company to the development of Dominica. hopefully, we will not be discussing it this evening because we will be putting something together so that you can really not just hear, you will see, you will hear, and you will feel it. This is how we remember things. And I find that MMC is a very good example of how you draw the attention to people, how fake news can try to make people believe a good thing is a bad thing. We have to show the people the good, and that is what they're about. So just to soothe the mind of our people, as usual, I'm going to play our long-time song that people have been asking by John Holt. Stick by me, and I will stick by you. Okay? I'll stick by you, and you will stick by me also. And I will stick by you. Listen, we are sticking by our listeners, our fans, and friends so that we can really have a good relationship. Listen, I suspect nowadays you're a very busy man. You're a very busy man. You're very involved, you know. And how was your week, Edison?
Oh, great week, man. Great week, man. It goes so fast. It goes so fast. I thank God for it. Because Dominica has so much to do, so much to get involved in, so much good food. I mean, you can never exhaust what we have. And I'm really having fun in Dominica. And the only down time for me in Dominica, sad time for me in Dominica, is just to listen to Q95. I mean, I feel so sorry for the people on Q95 that they are always angry. They're living in an alternative world. They're living in a Dominica that is not real. Because while people are moving on and fighting pandemic and trying to get away from that, those who call Q95, they are so sad and miserable. And you hear it in their voice. While the rest of the world and rest of Dominica, majority of Dominicans, think we have a good prime minister, I mean, you have people on Q95 echoing every day how bad our prime minister is. And I feel sorry for them, because that cannot be a life. That is not a fulfilling life. That's a life of depression. And the leader said it. I don't know why people not getting vexed. Because I think in Dominica right now, Linton is the most unhappy person in Dominica. In America, Trump is the most unhappy person. Linton is the most unhappy person in Dominica. I think at the end of the year, we need to give him the Unhappy Award. Donnie's on.
Oh, Donnie is on now.
Yeah. We need to give him the Unhappy Award, because he's not a happy person.
Yeah.
When somebody tries to get people to be angry with them, it tells what state of mind they are. So at the end of the year, we will be honoring Linton with the Unhappy Award person of the year.
Okay. Well, we have Donnie's on at this time, so let us just call in him, let him make his introduction. Donnie.
Good evening.
Good evening to you, Donnie.
Good evening. Good evening. Good
Yes,
evening,
sir.
Mr. Ellison.
Yes,
What's
sir.
happening?
I'm very good on you.
I'm good, brother. Always happy to be part of your program. Mr. Mills, I will be on for a little while, just for a short while, because I know there's an important issue that you wanted to discuss. So I know one of your legal experts may call in, so I will just be on until the agreed time. But just to be part of this discussion, I quite agree with Edison. I mean, you have to wonder, what has become to a certain section of our population who just seem to live in perpetual misery and bitterness and anger. And you have to wonder if this is good for someone's health, and how long can they keep this up? Because I mean, every single day to be hating somebody, hate is a heavy load, is a burden, especially when you hit somebody for no reason. God said thou shalt not hate, but when you hit somebody has done nothing wrong to you, and just because you want to install yourself, just because you think you should be in this position, and you spend your morning, noon and night, breakfast, lunch and dinner hating somebody, wishing them bad, it's a heavy load. And I think some people need to re-examine their strategy, and probably that will bring some more joy in their life, But I pause here.
Yes. You see, every time we talk about Q95 and the work that they do, I am very sensitive, and I do not think I'm oversensitive, because I think that over the years, the more I listen, and then when I see the effects of what they are doing, if I had any doubt in my mind that what they are doing, it is something that is against the interests of national security. I remember that's how I first started talking about the work that they're doing. Being on the radio every day and making statements, trying to brainwash the population or the listeners. And we got the confirmation, if anybody had any doubt about it, when you see what happened in America on the 6th of January. That was the climax of 4 years of Donald Trump in office, using the media to turn the minds of the people. Under those 4 years, that's the time the white supremacist group in America, that's the time they grew the most. That's the time the FBI said that there was more hate crimes, especially from white supremacist group in America. Because all these years they have been using the media and preaching violence and hate. And they were able to use that in terms of the election. Remember, the election actually happened on 3rd November last year. But Donald Trump was preparing the American people that should he lose, they would be so indoctrinated, they would not accept a win from the Democratic Party. And that's what they did. And Donald Trump took a lie, and he ensured that he repeated that lie enough times to cause people to go to the American capital in Washington and invaded the capital, and the amount of violence that we saw. In other words, they used that technique to radicalize their people. And that's why in Dominica, when we listen to them, we hear some of the people, they talk with so much anger and hate in their voice. And in Dominica now, that has been going on for a while. Since 2005, the United Workers' Party lost the elections, but not just to take out shame from their face, but to continue in that spirit of deception. They had to keep something going. So they had to have a matter in the court, letting their supporters believe that the court will overturn the election in their favor, or overturn the election so that they can say that the election was rigged. And it is interesting to note that in 2005, we now have information that which we did not have at the time. The United Workers' Party, through SCL and Henry and Partners, had already obtained campaign finance to help them to try to win the election. And SCL is the mastermind for strategic communication. They call it strategic communication. But as far as I am concerned, that is brainwashing. That is a means of radicalizing their supporters. And we used to hear Lennox Linton from that time on the radio. So when people were saying, leave Linton, nobody wouldn't believe him. Because when you leave them unattended or without rebutting them, they are trying to indoctrinate the people. And we see that is what is happening. And that is why Ellison, as you say, that the most unhappy time you have is when you listen to Q95. It is because, Ellison, you are listening to a set of people who are radicalized. You listen to Blessings. You listen to Brian Linton. You listen to, what's her name? Blue. You know, and you listen to Loftus Duran, the host, and you also listen to Matt, and you can see these people, they are very disturbed. And in the case of Matt,
I think they need psychological help.
I think so too, because
but Mr. Mills,
yeah,
Mr. Mills, innocent. So before I go, I'm going to hang up very soon. Let me just follow up on what you say, what your innocent just said, and I like the example you drew with the American situation when Donald Trump pushed this big lie for months and months, and Donald Trump cast doubt on the election by claiming, even before it had taken place, that the only way he could lose was if it was rigged against him, right? And from there, he pushed this big lie about voter fraud and cast doubt on million ballots and all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this May 6th would have never happened.
January 6th.
January 6th would have never happened if people who from Donald Trump's party, right? People who are educated, people who have been in politics forever, people who have experience, people who once held some credibility. If people had not acquiesced to this shameful, lying and spewing of nonsense. If people of his own party had stood up to him, like a very few brave ones did, like the guys in Georgia, the Secretary of State of Georgia, right, and so Mitt Romney and so forth, right. But too many people in that party followed Donald Trump shamefully and blindly, right, knowing full well that he was lying, right. Some of them were his harshest critics when he ran for the nominee for their party. They call him a con man, Ted Cruz, and all of them. But going back to Dominica's situation, right? I listened to Q this afternoon, right? And they're talking about the decision made by the DPP, right? And they started with phone calls threatening the lady. Lee Robinson, this one lady, Alice Warrington, who lives in Switzerland, or wherever she lives. Another one called, and they were threatening the DPP. Okay? And they were Christian, right? And I know he listens to Q, and he's an attorney, right? And Gabriel Christian is somebody some people listen to, right? Although he holds no political currency in Dominica, but some people listen to him. Some people think he's fancy language and he's an attorney. So some people listen to him, and he never once condemned the attacks on the DPP. Not one time. But he comes out and condemns the decision. A decision to end the court matter. Right? So that is the problem we have. Because I don't expect anything better from Blessing. Blessing is an idiot. So is Blue. So is Loftus. They're idiots. Right? But the people who know better, the people who have an obligation to know better, the people who went to school, train, and become professionals, right? They know better than that. Right? And they encourage this kind of behavior by their failure to condemn it. If you don't condemn it, you endorse it. Right? When somebody calls and threatens the life of a DPP and an attorney at law does not condemn, and he follows that caller and calls the same radio station, and instead of condemning what the person said, he goes on an attack on the DPP and our legal system in Dominica. Right? So this is the problem we have. Right? So that what do you say from Blessing? When people who once held some influence, when people who some people look up to, will not do the right thing. Right? It is never right to incite violence. That doesn't solve any problem. But that's the problem we have. And so Workers' Party supporters, Blessings them, they think they're doing the right thing, because Gabriel Christian saying the same thing. They think they're right. Right? So that is the problem we have in Dominica, I think, Mr. Mills. And I will stop this guy. I know Tony want to call. So I will listen off here, and if there's more time, I'll come back later.
Okay, thank you very much, Donnie. Thank you very much for your first contribution. Hopefully, you will meet on the other side of the call of Tony. Okay, so Donnie, I think you may be listening, and those of you who are still listening, I want to recommend a book that Ellison, I got that online. I don't know if I send you the link, whether you'll be able to get it or. But it's a very interesting book, a book that is very relevant to the subject that we are talking about. I'm just trying to get the cover page, because it has to. The name of the book really is the Constitution of Truth. I'm trying to get the name of the author, but I will have to send it to you, Edison and Donnie. It is a Constitution of Knowledge, a defense of truth. I do not have the name of the author, but when I send it to those of you who might be interested, you can send me a message. Those of you, especially those of you who are following on Facebook, or those of you who have my number, you can follow on Facebook. So that is what I think it is all about. But before we even start to discuss any further, I believe right now we may have Senior Counsel on the line. So without any further ado, good evening, Senior Counsel.
Good night, Mr. Mills. Good night, Ellison. Good night to your listeners.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Yes, Senior Counsel.
So how you doing, Senior Counsel?
Well, I'm good, Ellison. Another day, sweet Jesus, one day at a time, and we just have to keep moving on.
That's right. We have to keep moving on. We have to, because truth is on our side. We have to keep moving on.
Well, truth is on our side because look, we have an electoral history in our country that cannot be erased. It is a fact that there have been 20 election petitions that have been struck out or dismissed. 205, 209, 2019. And struck out at the earliest possible time when the threshold for passing the test for trial is at its lowest. It's like you go into a friend's house and all he has is a little latch on the garden gate for you to come in, right? But when you get to the house is double bolted. And to get inside, you have to knock, they open the latch, you come in. Well, these fellas have not been able to pass the garden gate with just a latch. And although it has taken us 6 or 7 years, but say 6 years, the Director of Public Prosecution, in the independent exercise of her judgment and jurisdiction and authority, has decided that complaint against 15 elected members of the House did not, and the evidence that she requested and she got did not warrant prosecution, did not warrant, or did not, was very unlikely to lead to conviction, and was an abuse of the process of the court. So if you add, it's one complaint but against 15, you add that to the 20 election petitions, it tells you what the situation really is. And I think the decision of the Director of Public Prosecution is how should I put it? A decision that will preserve the rule of law, the protection of the rule of law, and has led to what I think the person who has been fighting this thing from day one, to justice for these defendants. There's no other way to describe it. Are you guys there?
Yes, Senior Counsel. I'm here, and but I even want to go way back because I think we have been having the opposition really trying to use the court as a continuation of the campaigning, as I was trying to explain just before you came in, so that they can keep their supporters motivated and in the belief that we do not have a legitimate government, and that is where we see the disrespect that we are seeing over the years, because they always think that they can get something, go to the court, and make people believe that the government is there. They still in election. The matter is in the court. We'll hear what is happening, and you see what happened, Senior Counsel. That
but you're sorry to interrupt. You're correct in the 2009 election petition matter with Peter Sergio and Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit. Justice Mauro Michel said the time has come to stop dragging politics into the court. Right? And they do it consistently. And I think they do it. Like Trump creates a lie and fuels and perpetuates a lie for fundraising purposes. These guys are a fundraising cartel. And all of this, raising funds in the interest of democracy, is another fundraising scheme. And talking about telling the truth, let me just make a point here, right? Because our dear brother and friend Donnie Fabian told me something a short while ago. The decision of the DPP to take over the cases was served on the magistrate on Senval a couple days ago, probably 3 days ago, maybe 4. And copies were sent to the offices of the lawyers representing the defendant. Copies were not sent to the lawyers representing Senval because at this time we didn't know who would be officially representing him. So he had advance notice. He also had advance notice of the letter from the Director of Public Prosecution, right? Saying why she was discontinuing and the notice of discontinuance. He had it at least yesterday because yesterday, I think it was yesterday, a member of the group chat, in which I'm in, sent it to me, say, as senior counsel, check that comment from Sparks John's Facebook page. So they all had notice of the discontinuance, as a result of which Senval did not turn up to court today, neither did any of his lawyers. And why am I saying this? These fellows trying to create another bit of evil conspiracy theory. They said, was in court. None of the lawyers representing the defendants were in court. Only Justin Simon. Well, my brother, God made us use WhatsApp sometimes for the benefit of truth and speaking truth to power. I was not in Dominica. Lennox Lawrence is in Dominica. Heather Felix Evans is in Dominica. Whether she went to court, I'm not sure. Mr. Andrew Pilgrim, Queen's Counsel, part of the legal team, was in Dominica. The two of them were the only lawyers who attended court today. Lennox Lawrence told me that Justin Simon was MIA, missing in action, was not in court, and very likely could not have come to court today because of possibly because of quarantine for COVID-19. But the lawyers representing the defendants went, and I think one of them went with the lawyers Catherine Daniel. And the reason why the other defendants were not there was not because they had early knowledge, because everybody had early knowledge, including Senval himself, Park John, Lennox Clinton, all of them, right? Is because at the last hearing of the court, when the lawyers representing the defendants and all of the so-called friends of the court were there, the magistrate indicated that the defendants, because they were in government and etc., didn't have to come every day and the case could proceed in their absence once their lawyers had no objection. So I'm saying all of this to tell you, factually what the man said was false, and factually all the information that was available to everybody was there before today, and the only lawyers that turned up were those representing the defendants, Justin Simon, and no other lawyer represented Senval. In fact, the magistrate asked where was Mr. Senval. He never turned up. Mm-hmm. Why did he not turn up? I do not know. I can guess. Maybe his lawyer told him it's been discontinued. It's been discontinued, so there's no necessity for you to come, to go. And I mean, they've just started unraveling the garbage bin, the garbage truck, the sewage stack, all over the place. Because once again, they're not prepared to accept a simple fact that there was nothing that warranted the prosecution. Okay, the CCJ said that the magistrate has jurisdiction. That was the only issue the CCJ decided. The CCJ did not decide the merits. The CCJ did not decide whether or not the DPP could intervene. And in fact, Mr. Mills, there's a transcript that reads Justice Barrow on a part December the 10th, 2020. Mr. Asafat, is it within the competence of the Director of Public Prosecution in Dominica to discontinue prosecution by a private citizen? Asked the Frank. Answer, yes, Justice Barrow, thank you. And Justice Anderson jumped in, and I gave an explanation to Justice Anderson why we had not requested the intervention of the DPP at that time. But it is the constitutional authority of the DPP to act in these matters. And as you know, Mr. Mills, in Dominica, the DPP has either not given evidence against or discontinued against people charged for murder, money laundering, drug trafficking, sexual assault, all different sorts of crimes. In St. Kitts, the DPP not discontinued the election private complaint of bribery against the elected member. It was done in St. Vincent in years gone by. It's part of the constitutional authority. It's the Director of Public Prosecution, as Sir Johnny Cheltenham, as Sir Richard Cheltenham put it, is the keeper of the gate. He has the keys. And he must either open or shut the gate of the criminal justice system if he thinks your case is warranted or not warranted. And that's their job, especially in private criminal matters, which has been changed in St. Vincent, England, to prevent arbitrary abuses such as we experience in Dominica. And the Director of Public Prosecution, who obviously took her time, she asked since April for the information. She eventually got it after the magistrate made his order. She studied it and she said there's nothing there. There's no evidence to warrant prosecution or likely to lead to a conviction. And it's an abuse of the process. And as you know, there's a decision of the Chief Justice in Barbados called King's application, where somebody, I think it's one of these inquiries into coroners, had recommended prosecution of police for murder in some situation in Barbados. And they were charged, and they challenged it in the court. And the Chief Justice of Barbados said, it is contrary to the public interest to prosecute civilians and police officers for offenses where there's no evidence to substantiate the charge. And if this debate is about equality before the law, elected members must have the same rights as citizens, police officers, members of the public service, who are all subject to charge by private criminal complaints, but all subject to the supervisory jurisdiction of the DPP to either take over and continue or take over and discontinue a case if he or she does not believe there's evidence there to back it up. And you know what I find was an insult to justice? Can I just go on to that?
Yeah, go ahead, yes.
You know who the witnesses were?
Oh, I saw a list of operatives and hatchet men of the UWP.
Let me just read it out for your listeners. Jawanza Stewart of Castle Roots, hardcore proto Trump Linton clash workers activists. Julius Tyrone Anthony of Layo, otherwise known as Blessings. Nicholas George, male of Collyho, former candidate of the United Workers' Party and president or whatever position that he has. Burgess Xavier, hardcore right-hand man of Lennox Linton, supporter of the United Workers. A lot of the social media posts depicts the close ties he and the bond that he and Lennox Linton has.
Going way back in 2007 when Lennox was on radio saying he get all kind of information and he was talking with his forensic team. He has been part of Lennox forensic team since then.
Yes, he gave one case he did a so-called IT report, which I submitted to a forensic investigator in the United States. I won't say what he said. I'll wait for the right time. Edgicott Sedval, Mona Charles, a woman that calls Q95 almost every single day, frequently seen at the United Workers' Party's political meeting, rallies and protests by the opposition. And last but not least, Mr. Miskit Licks, Lynn Wolf Michel, That is who the United Workers' Party put forward. And you know something? I do not know what the facts are. But I have a strong belief that when Mervyn John Baptist, who's not a fool, I know Mervyn well, saw what they were doing, or saw the witnesses that were coming, he said, not me. All right? And when Mervyn said, well, there was no preparation, you remember what he said? There was no preparation and no representation?
Yes, I remember that well.
Well, when I started to see who the witnesses were, what they were saying, I understood what Mervyn John Baptist meant by no preparation. They had nothing. And to matters worse, they had nothing, and they wanted to throw him under the bus because the day they had to go to court, there was no lawyers there waiting. There was no lawyer there to it.
It will be interesting to see the statement itself and what date it was written. It will be interesting.
There was one of them that was done just before the charges were filed. I think that was St. Val's own. And maybe the Mervyns, and I don't remember seeing one of Mervyns, and maybe one for D4 who died. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But other than for these one or two, my recollection is most of the witness statements were done in 2021. And as a police investigator yourself, one of the first things you check, but you say a man robbed you in 2010 and your witness statement is done 2016, well, how am I supposed to believe what you're saying? apart from them being hardcore supporters of workers, apart from them being activist supporters of workers who are on queue, who are making videos, whether doctoring or otherwise, and audios for the United Workers' Party, putting out all kind of video about Carrot House, flying drones over the Prime Minister's house, doing all kind of crazy stuff. These are the so-called honest witnesses that they wanted to bring into the court. No, the DPP never addressed that, and she's right, she didn't have to. She was looking at the meat. There was no meat. There was no bone. There was no bone. There was nothing that she could see that would warrant prosecution in the magistrate. Just imagine that. Just reflect. Just reflect on that. If the shoe was on the other foot, and the fellas giving witnesses evidence for the Labour Party were Simeon, Brain, Jyoti, Rosa South, Dominica, Ronald Charles, Ghost, even yourself or Ellison, what would they say?
Yeah, they say activists of the Labour Party.
Yeah. And I can certainly tell you that I would never be involved in a case like that. If when we go thing, I get a witness statement from hardcore supporters of Labour. Nobody in the conference, nobody in any of the shows. And the other thing too, Mr. Mills, you will understand this. The legal and proper definition and interpretation of treating is not as simple as a threat. The law, well, let me put it this way. I have probably done more election matters than anybody alive in CARICOM, right? I have all the old textbooks from 18-something, 19-something. At the time this legislation may have first been passed 100 years ago, right? And I've read the recent case law coming right through to 2000 and something. And one of the fundamental criteria of the offense of treating is that the effect of the treated must operate on the mind of the voter on the date of the election. And he must make a decision to vote, otherwise done in good conscience, but because of the influence of the corrupting effect of the treated, whether it's alcohol, whether it's food, whether it's entertainment, in the legal sense of the word, not just blowing a trumpet in a lapo cabin, right? All of them, most of them says, well, once I heard that thing, I turned the TV off, I turned the radio off, I go home, I shut my window so I couldn't hear it from Windsor Park. None of them mentioned anybody attending the thing except the one woman from Marigot. says, oh my God, when I got there, I realized what a big mistake I made. What I went there for, they want me to support workers. And she doesn't say that she was corruptly influenced to vote Labour, to change her mind from workers to Labour, which is what the law requires. Other than her, there was no evidence of anybody being present. And even with her, there's no evidence of anyone having changed their mind to vote because of these concerns. And the final point I want to make, and I know you have a short program tonight, Justice Thomas and Justice Glasgow rubbish the idea that you can just simply talk about giving a man a drink and call that treated, or have a fete. Justice Glasgow said it is a cultural thing in the Caribbean island that during election campaigns, the political parties have bands, music, and entertainment. And he's right. What would you have rather them to have? A pastor, a priest, an imam, a bishop? I mean, politics is not about morality and religion. Politics is about getting your base out and getting people excited to come and vote for you. And who will want to fret and do a little wind up and a dance up with their wife or their husband or their boyfriend and girlfriend or whoever? And before 2014 and after 2014 in 2019, workers had music, tech, reggae artists, soca artists, triple K artists, Linton dancing on the platform. I mean, no decent...
Put your foot in the corner.
Yes, put your foot in the corner. Right? No decency, no honesty, no moral standards, no ethical standards. It's too so, too flam. I mean, I lose, I vex, I sue. But before I lose, I do the same thing they were doing. Music, pet, people dancing, men and girls dancing on stage. I mean, who wants to go to a major meeting and don't have no music? Even a hi-fi. If they were right, La Poca bit would make it a crime. Hi-fi would make it a crime.
Can you imagine a political campaign without music, without entertainment, without people without people talking, and even comedy?
No, I agree with you. And if they were right, every time Reginald Austri sing, he'll be committing a crime.
Yeah.
Because that's entertainment.
Of course it is.
You know what I mean? It is just so dishonest. And that is why I am happy to tell you today. And that's my final comment because I have to go. I know you have to end the day. I am happy that we were able to throw out 20 election petitions, 15 of which or more, or all 20 of which contain allegations of bribery, 15 of which contain allegations of treating, all of which were thrown out the window by the judges. And I'm happy to tell you that I respect the DPP's decision as I respect the CCJ's decision. And her decision puts an end to a travesty and abusive process and a harassment and a victimization of the 15 members of the parliament who can now go home and rest without nerves and rest in peace, not in the sense of how it's normally called, but lie down in bed and sleep without having to worry about one day having to go to court to face that.
That's political harassment.
Political harassment.
Tony, would these people made to pay costs?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know because I don't know if you can get costs in the magistrate.
No, not in a criminal matter.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can.
Because I just think that is harassment of people, and you use the legal system to harass somebody and put them under unnecessary stress and even expense.
Ellison, you're totally correct. Yeah, because it costs money to have lawyers. However discounted their fees may be, lawyers need to get paid because they have offices. I, Anthony Wadi Astafad, born on King George's 5th Street many years ago. I'm telling you, I am convinced that these election petitions and these constant allegations against the government, that criminal complaint, was all part of a fundraising cartel to keep the tempo in the air so they can raise money. This is a cartel that has mastered the art of raising money through GoFundMes, through telethons, through sending Edison to Switzerland in 2005, come back with $3 million EC dollars, get $1.5 million for SCL to get paid SCL in 2009, and then we keep hearing Lennox Clinton talking about the Al Jazeera talking about 2 diplomatic passports and 2 memorandum and 400,000 USD. It's a fundraising cartel. Because what have they done proactively and constructively for the people of this country? Nothing. Anyway, my brother, thank you for your time. Gentlemen, my brothers, thank you for your time.
Before you leave, one thing I would really like to ask. But before I ask that question, I would just like to comment. In addition to the fundraising cartel, they were very silly in the fact that all they wanted to do is to have the government ministers in the defendant box to try to ask them all kind of embarrassing questions.
Well, let me tell you something, Mr. Mills. We were so absolutely, we were thoroughly prepared. The team was Anthony Astafan, Andrew Pilgrim, Gilbert Peterson, Trinidad, Andrew Pilgrim, Barbados, Lennox Lawrence, and Heather Felix Evans. We had weekly or bi-weekly Zoom meetings. We were constantly on preparation mode. We were on maximum preparation mode at the time when we got the first document about taking over. We were ready for this, and we were all firmly convinced that unless something odd happened in the magistrate's court, this matter was not going to pass the prosecutions.
I think so.
Because we read, let me just make the fact, because we read what they filed. And we understand, and we know, and we have the authorities and the learning of what constitutes the offense of treating.
Mm-hmm.
And what they had in the court was as close to treating as Portsmouth is to Soufriere, as Scott said.
Mm-hmm.
So we were, for those on the other side who believe we were not prepared, we get a lawyer at the last minute. Postman, Mr. Pilgrim has been to Antigua, to Dominica at least 2 times, other than this trip.
Mm-hmm.
We've had numerous Zoom meetings because one of our brothers was stranded in Trinidad with COVID. All right? So we had this thing done electronically, and we were thoroughly prepared. So these fellows were dreaming in La La Land, thinking about something. But there's one other thing I want to address before I go. Can I, in 1 minute?
Yeah, go ahead, no problem.
Donnie sent me a clip of Blessings calling Matt. That media whore calling Matt said, well, you know, I asking a question. Is it true that the government paid the medical expenses for the boyfriend or husband of the acting DP? I don't really know them that well. And Matt is saying, okay, thank you. Didn't stop him. Didn't stop him. Didn't correct him. He allowed it to go as in accordance with his wicked, nasty plan. A caller called back and said, "Are you hearing Matt's voice in the clip with Blessings?" Eh? A caller calls and said, "But how could you allow the man to say that?" You know, Matt told the guy he never heard Blessings say that.
Matt is a very dishonest guy.
And not just that, comrade, the physical condition and the damage to the brain of this fellow was such that whoever he was, like Sam Christian, would have gotten assistance from the government to go and save a life of a young promising Dominican and cricketer, right? And Blessings and these fellows who live in the garbage bin trying to make that an issue today. And Matt, who I call the media whore, right, allowed it to happen.
Oh, yes.
And this is one of the reasons why I appreciate you and Ellison having me on today and discussing that stuff, because we must never let people like that Never let people like that succeed, my brother. Because they would make Edison James look like a joke. When the first thing he came and he started victimizing public officers and Scotland and these fellows. But anyway, thank you for your time. Edison, thank you for your time.
Yes. And while Tony is leaving, Tony, thank you very much to bring that thing so clear to us. It is so true of the fundraising scheme them guys have. We heard it from John Baptist. John Baptist said there was no preparation, but there was a lady calling Q95 to say, how come this man don't have representation when I donate money for that?
Yes, guys are gone. Thanks for listening.
Okay, I see you have to go. We'll talk another time. Thank you very much, Senior Counsel.
You know, that is so true. It's a scheme. It's a cartel. Because the Matt Loftus Durant cut the lady off. Donny back. Cut the lady off because she's asking about accountability for the money that she donated for representation on that matter. And he said, well, Mr. Linton has spoken about it, and he cut off.
Oh, yes.
All right. So that mean people were giving money for that, and it was not going to that cause. I don't know who is responsible. I don't know. I'm not into the belly of the United Workers' Party. I used to have information, but the person that was giving me information stopped giving me. I don't know, because I come Dominica. I stopped getting. When I was overseas, I was sending like a cash for my partner, and he would give me something. But now in Dominica, I don't have cash. I don't get it. Nothing.
Anyway, I said, Donnie's back with us, so Donnie, come in.
Send some for you.
Yeah. Well, you can buy them to remove peanuts.
but you know, I just think I'm listening to Tony did a fantastic job of it, and I'm just listening to this thing. I just remember something, right? So they charging, they're alleging that they're sitting that having music on a political platform is freaking, right? When not only they have had music, they always have music. They had
always
international reggae artists, Itana and Richie Spice and so forth, and Tazi and Triple K. But do you recall who else was singing calypso on stage? Do you recall? At a rally?
I know Lennox was singing a calypso about
I'm a bold-faced, no-faced leader.
That's right. As a matter of fact, they even remade a song of Dice and put the words to fit him. Because I'm a bold-faced, no-face. Remember that?
Yes.
The man was performing live on platform singing calypso, giving his fans entertainment. So he was fitting them.
These people are just wicked. I noticed Senior Counsel had to go, but one point I really wanted to ask him was the question of, well, as a prosecutor sometimes, when you have a matter before the court, based on the law of treating, as Senior Counsel explained, and based on the wording of the act or the law, where it said that anyone in preparing a case file, and I think maybe Senior Counsel say that sometimes, they did not name one person who was treated. You understand? They say the electorate. Who are the electorate?
The Laborites. people like me, you, that vote Labour. So what they saying? What the main argument is that Labour Party treat and bribe its supporters. I mean, that is like.
And you're talking about a criminal offense.
A criminal offense.
A criminal offense. You have to prove your case.
But listen to that. Listen to that, Donny. Giving somebody a shirt, whether it's Labour, Workers, or Freedom, a hat, and a bag versus taking that person to a concert? Which one is more money?
Not actually taking into consideration, not making a concert available to them.
Making a concert available, yes.
Free, I hear that. Free to the public. Anybody wants to go.
You remember Muspa? Is Muspa you call him?
Yeah.
Said that it's $30 per vote.
Yes.
$30 per voter they should have as a cap. So when I tell him from Benz to Granby, it's $30. So that
nonsensical argument, right? And I firmly believe, and I agree with you all 100%, right? These lawsuits that these guys are bringing before the court, they know full well is a bunch of BS, but that is just a ruse to keep the grift going.
Exactly that.
You cannot lose 20 petitions in a row, and you can see, and they all are the same. It's a carbon copy of each other, and you keep losing, but you keep going back to court. It's a ruse to keep the grift going. It's a ruse to raise money. It's a ruse to continue to fool the supporters, my brother. And that's all it is, because these guys are not, I know they are foolish. I know they don't be stupid, right? But nobody is stupid enough to bring 20 cases back to back, the same nature, and keep losing. No, brother, man. No.
Well, yeah, it's a motive to get money.
Absolutely.
And when you look at it, you'd swear that the United Workers' Party and Donald Trump, they are reading from the same manual. They are following the same instructions. So that you make an accusation, you make a claim, you don't have to prove it. You don't have to have enough people in the media to repeat it over and over. And then on your false claim, you go into court. And on your false claim, you're asking people to donate. So you are scheming. That's almost like a Ponzi scheme.
Yes.
That is what they're doing.
And you have the leader himself. He himself, in his own voice on the radio, soliciting donations from the public, telling them where to go donate, telling them go online at this and that, right? Or if to make it easier for you, you can meet any one of the executives, right? He, in his own voice, is out there making the solicitation for funds.
There is once he told them, let us hurry up and pay that.
That one was
for peanut burn.
Yes. And do you know that was after Maria? Him was doing that.
Oh yes.
Right after Maria.
When after he came from the police around, he don't give them a cent.
Right after Maria.
Yeah, he came from the police. He did not give them a cent. That guy said, Albino asked him, you went to the police around, you don't bring not one grain of rice. And he came asking them for money. Yeah, listen, Donnie, I see the local callers are trying to come in. So
okay,
yeah,
okay, my friend.
Okay,
no problem.
So yeah, if you can call back again if according to what's going on. Okay, thank you. Yes, so yeah, we have a local caller. Caller, good evening on the local line.
Yeah, good evening, ladies. Good evening, Donnie. Good evening, Eddie.
Good evening.
Yeah, you recall that day when Muslim stepped down and the uproar that was created, and Senvad did say that he was ready for his case. He had been ready from day one. He had his evidence and his witnesses. He had his lawyers. Can you recall that?
Yes. I remember that clip.
There's a voice clip. I wish you could get it and play it for the people to hear, because he was saying that he was ready from day one, which is January 2016. You know, with his witnesses, with his evidence, with his lawyers. We find out today that one of his key witness, only filed a statement in May after the magistrate gave orders for disclosure.
Not only one, only about two of them had filed a case. Well, we keep saying file, wrote their statement. And all the rest you saw, or you can see, well, I haven't seen it myself, but based on what I heard from the senior counsel, most of them were in 2021.
Exactly. So I mean, it's it's just shameful, or I should say shameful, that there is no redress in terms of punitive redress, financial redress, and whatever things for people who have to pay money to get lawyers. Spend time with the exhaustion and excitement about those things there. There should be some redress, at least the legal fees, to recoup the legal fees. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, caller. Yes, Ellison. You see, what I'm saying is, we must never give up, because they have been at it for the longest while. There are things that we took for granted, and they were like what you call wood ants, spreading the information around the country, using that same technique of disinformation. And when you feel that, there's a thing. Well, I don't know if I should say that, but there's something they call, when you're doing certain things, it doesn't matter whether you got caught. It's what you do. Like you're doing something, and if somebody raises it out, you notice what they do. They call it pushback in Edison, in American on the American media. Like Donald Trump or somebody would do something wrong, and then they don't stay silent. They come back on the radio, and they criticize people. Like for instance, Donald Trump will say it's a manhunt, it's a witch hunt. But diverting the subject from whatever it is that is on. So right there and then they try to make it look like they're a victim. Yeah. So they will continue. They will not give up. Caller on the local line.
Good evening, Mr. Mills. Good evening, Edison.
Good evening. Good evening. This caller is very energetic.
Hey, you don't know. Scott your IB. So I always said energetic.
Oh, Scott said.
Okay.
Anyway, Mr. Mills.
Yes, hello.
Good program.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
It's getting better and better.
Thank you very much.
Anyhow, listen to me. So it only takes the gospel concerts for blessing and co to see the light.
you mean he was persuaded like Paul? Is it Paul Agrippa? Ellison.
Agrippa. They're having it, but you know what? Mr. Mills? Mr. Mills is a good cop. You are a good cop, and you know when people lie. You know that is a lie straight from the pit of hell. But they should. You know, all the people they take to court, they should have take them back to court for wasting their time. But that is wickedness. Blessing on all the others, they should have. There is time for them to this time, or something to make example out of these people there. Because that is highway wickedness, my brother. Wasting people's time for nothing at all. Blessing on them, and I listen to them, you know. They say when they had the gospel concert. This UP had their thing up in Cali. They had some show up in the Cali, something up in the Cali, Nago territory.
Yes, I remember. Richie Spice.
Okay.
Richie Spice is his name.
Someone blessing on them to go, that is wickedness. Oh, no, man. Blessing, bless people they have their day in hell. Trust me. I might say that they say looking for hell now, but you don't ever tell where people end up. But I'll be sitting looking from go chain on them, take them in hell for they lie too much. They're too wicked.
But thank you very much, caller.
Thank you very much, caller.
You know, something struck me a while ago. And there's a loophole in the legal system. And because means I can make a story on you and try to make it a criminal case and let you spend money on lawyer, and then they discontinue the case. But I am, at the end of it, you lost so much.
Yeah.
there have to be some recourse. There have to be something that the victims in that matter, well, maybe they can sue them for libel. I should ask Tony that question.
Tony can explain that. But one of the things that could happen, but it's very difficult to prove, is how they call that malicious
intent.
Malicious prosecution.
Prosecution, okay.
Malicious prosecution. But I think it's just a technique, as I said.
No, but if you accuse somebody of a crime that they haven't committed, can you not sue that?
Well, I think
is there a legal cost to
the
that?
solution to that is what happened in St. Vincent.
Tell me about
that they need to amend the act. That certain cases, especially election cases, where you have an election, that's the name of the act, election act, whatever the name is, which is specifically for the House of Assembly. Just like you have other acts, like you have the IPO, where people are supposed to file certain document. That even if you have the IPO, which is a commission of itself, they cannot prosecute somebody who they think commit an offense under the IPO unless they pass it through the DPP.
Okay.
I believe in that particular case, in those particular cases, I believe that at least, not just that, they may have to look at other things that they may need to do, but at least if you want to take a person to court for an election offense, especially a candidate, or whatever the case may be, that matter should go through the DPP. Because after an election, we have a caller, just stand by a while. When you have activists like those people that we saw give statements, Edin Consenvalve, Lofty Jones, well, I didn't see him name, but whatever the names that they call there, Nicholas George, even Mervyn who gave up, even Antoine Defoe, and the ex-police from Biosh. These are people and blessings who have been
political appointees.
Not only that, they have been radicalized.
Yes.
So they can do anything just for politics. Caller on the local line. Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Listening to Blessing and then, so what they telling to the Workers' Party that they betray them then? Because workers to lose it. They pretend that they were voting for workers and then they go and vote. No, they pretend they was voting for workers and then they go and vote for the that they're telling the workers people then. There's a crook, man.
Well,
so they're telling us that after the concert they change and they vote and they betray their own party and all the time they over the radio saying they scary this, scary that, and they voted for scary. I can't believe them, man. They're going mad.
I'd really like somebody, whoever can help me. If whatever the case, I would like to see the statements written by those witnesses, those false witnesses of the UWP. I would like to see this statement because there's something I'd like to analyze on that to show the public, Ellison, that even based on the statement, that's what the DPP said, but the DPP didn't go in much details. But I'd like to go on the statements that they wrote and show why these statements, whether they could be proven as a fact. Based on what I'm hearing that they were saying, based on the point they were trying to prove. But I heard Lennox Clinton slightly this afternoon talking about the evidence that they had. Even the evidence he's saying that he had does not amount to treating and bribery, whatever the offense that they are claiming. In addition, caller, even the way they wrote the complaint, it doesn't explain any offense. So it was just a mess. Just to embarrass, the caller cut off. Just to embarrass the government people who won them in the court. It is just as if Edison, like I win you, or you had a girlfriend and I bowl you out, Edison, and you do anything to embarrass me.
Because you see, Linton and United Workers Party from 2000 never accept a defeat. Never. They never consider, and it was always stolen. And they tried their best. You have a colonel was like, try their best to keep that going.
Caller on the overseas line. Good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, Mr. Mills. That's Mr. Biggs.
Biggs, how are you?
Good program. I've been back and forth with your program, and also Low Black and our program, Low Black and Aussie.
Oh, you talking about the political sports program?
Yeah, and them man talking about Glen Etienne donate $70,000 to the Windsor Park football stadium. So now, they cut off the collar because I personally call. I say, well, I know for sure that 70,000. I know some go towards Jacques Faustin business. Some go towards.
Okay. Hello. Babes.
Okay. No. Okay, man. Let's forget about that. Emma, Mr. Mills.
Yeah.
No, I heard blue this morning. Blue.
Mm-hmm. She's dead. She's blue and she's blue in her face.
Well, blue. Yeah. Her name is my cousin, Luvinia Edward.
Oh.
No, she put some licks on the prosecutor. Margaret said blue. Blue said, well, she will leave the prosecutor in the hands of her mother. You understand? So when them people giving us blows, man, Mr. Mills, man, we have to fire back enough. With all you know, people, I have put blows on them, you know. I have to tell them, those who carry FM. I don't take full responsibility for my action. Me only have to sue. I am Irvin Simeon Williams. Irvin S. Williams.
No, but we're not going to provide you with the avenue to make a statement that is libelous. You know, it is out of the standard that we have on that program. This is the politics of truth. This is true politics.
Right.
Okay?
You are right, Mr. Mills.
Okay.
That's why I respect you. But Blue was out, man. But oh my goodness, man. Blue spots and these guys on Q95, they love that. They like that. They love that. They're laughing. You tell about all the prosecutor, I will live in the hands of my mother. But who should live in a house, man, with?
Okay. Let's do good.
Come on.
Let's not.
Okay. So let's leave it like that. Good program, and I love your show, and keep it real, and I love you guys, gentlemen. Good program, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
God bless you guys.
Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you very much,
Good night to my Prime Minister and Dominica. Mommy, I love you guys.
Okay.
God bless. Dominica, God bless.
Okay.
Stay safe. Blows on them.
Okay, bye. Now, on the local line, good evening.
Good evening to you, Mr. Mills.
Good evening, Mommy.
My radio is loud in your ears.
Oh, yeah, I can hear something in the background. It's better it's better that you
It's better now?
No, just put it off right completely because I'm still here.
Oh boy.
Okay, right. Go ahead now.
Okay. And my son that there, what is his name?
Ellison.
Mommy, good evening.
No, you told me the last time your name is what? To call it. I call your name. And you told me I can't pronounce your name too well now.
Mommy, good evening. Yeah. That's okay. Ellison.
Okay, good evening to you, my son. Everything good?
Yeah, everything good, yes.
The family, the home, everybody is
yes,
okay?
Yes, Mommy, very all good right. On you.
So I say good evening to my Dr. Honorable Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, his wife, his children, and all the ministers and senators of the government. May God continue to bless, guide, protect, and direct all of you. All my labor rights, Crazy T and his team, may God bless us all. And I claim that precious blood of the Lamb of God from the crown of your head and my children to the sole of our feet. No weapon that form against us shall not prosper. I've been saying that the enemies of the state, the Q95, Matt Peltier that always on a hot seat, I told him to get a block of ice to put on the seat for his intestine to cook up. So all of them that trying to plot against the government, they have to fall one by one. Right now, not one by one I giving them. Now I give them 2 by 2 and 3 by 3. Because it's a matter of evil, jealousy, wickedness, and hatred and bitterness they have for the government of this land. Because they say, too many things happening. They to say, you can't provide 2 part 2. But I tell you, they was dragging 2 part 2. They took the government to court. They happily took the government to court. They steal the election. They all kind of nonsense. Right now, they lose all. But what I'm saying to the government, we have a case coming up, and I hope that case come up soon. When Linton the novice, this spontaneous liar, stay on the air and say, we are all people are prostitutes prostrating in front of the Prime Minister's purse, and the young people are prostitutes, and spell the word prostitute. So I'd like the ministers to take them to court right now so that they can explain how much of them that prostrate in front of the minister's purse. These people are sickening in this country. Since I know myself, I born in this land in 1938. Look at my age today. I've never seen things happen during politics time like what I seen today. We had UWP. That is after they stole, they threw out Miss Charles and took over power because of his greedy Edison James. Labor and freedom. They always used to be in the time of politics, everybody on edge. After election, we all go back as a family in this country. We never had this kind of criticizing and mockery, jealousy and envy like what I seen in this time in Dominica under the novice, this spontaneous liar and his brother, Matt, mommy telling you tonight, I want you to get a block of ice to put on your feet because you will cook up. And you have to tell us you're not a journalist. You is a fortune teller that's watching in women's vagina to see how much feel comes out in it.
Callers, I'm very sorry for that type of conversation that is coming on the program. And this is not what we are about, Ellison.
Not at all.
No, we're not about that. And
Mommy, you have to take it easy. Mommy, you have to take it easy.
No. Callers, we are talking about the conduct of a party which is just meant and determined, and they are just interested in causing problem in the country. And I didn't hear everything, but based on what they were saying, they were speaking like as if that the DPP had no right to I just lost that call. Yeah. Like the DPP had no right to strike out the case. In Dominica, I've been around for a while, Ellison. And recently, not just recently, when the UWP went out and they went on protest without permission from the chief of police, the DPP at the time, hold on, the DPP at the time, discontinued the case. It was not a problem to them.
Yeah.
So the UWP, they are just people, they have no regard for law. All they want is power, and they do anything for it. Caller on the local line. We just have 2 minutes. Good evening.
Okay, good night. Good evening. No shit, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Edison. You see Edison? Ellison?
Yeah.
Edison have something going on that I disagree with him about. Mm-hmm. He have an opinion and a views and something he decide that he thinks that the workers, the Lennox is a good thing for him to stay there. Because once he stay there, we have a clean sweep. I don't mind that part, the clean sweep part. What have you? But I still find, Edo, that's a wrong thing you predicting for Dominica. You calling on us. You bringing on us.
Yeah. I even agree with you.
Don't forget that opposition is a vital thing for the country. By right, it's supposed to be a good thing for the country.
Caller, you made your point and ready. We cannot stay longer with you because we just have less than a minute to go. So
I see myself as an advocate for a good opposition.
Okay, caller, we have to go because time is up on us. Okay.
No problem.
All right, thank you. Yes, Alice, we just have 1 minute. I do not know if I don't even need to call in the remaining seconds. Your 20 seconds, Ellison.
Yes, Caller, I do agree with you that we need a better opposition than that. We don't need Linton. We don't need to have Linton there to win an election. It's just an easy takeover. It's like taking a candy from a baby.
Okay, callers, and there's a call on the line, but we just do not have more time. And Ellison, we had a very good program, and every week now I'm getting reviews. People are talking about the program, how that they enjoy the program, and it's very informative. So until next week at the same time, callers, thank you for listening. We'll be back with another program of True Politics, and as we say, our aim is to dismantle and dissect the information that is false, and then let our listeners understand why it is so dangerous to our people. Until next week, good evening, everybody. Well, hold on, we can do that.
I wish to apologize for this technical glitch. We're sorry, and thanks for staying with us. I want again to wish you all good evening. Welcome to this evening's edition of Anu Pale. We give God praises for sparing us the worst of the impact of Hurricane Elsa, which affected parts of the Lesser Antilles on Friday. Our friends in Barbados and St. Lucia, who bore the brunt of the winds, are in our thoughts, and we pray for speedy recovery for all those affected in these islands. I commend the efforts of those who sprang into action to ensure our country's readiness for possible impact. The National Emergency Planning Organization, NEPO, the Office of Disaster Management, and the Met Office were on top of the developments. We thank God for His mercies and continue to lift our voices in prayer as we seek His protection through this hurricane season and beyond. On today's program, I will focus exclusively on the fiscal response